Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to the Real Talk Podcast, brought to you by the National Association of Black Journalists at the University of Central Florida. I'm your host, Jeremy Bellande.
And I'm your co-host, Jovanni Surin.
All right, Jovanni, so, it's about that time of year where friends and family come together and we celebrate the holidays. We're going to be discussing Black culture, the holidays, and more.
All right, so let's get into what makes Black culture around this time of the year different than other experiences.
Of course. So I have a little stat for you as well. According to the Pew Research Center in 2021, about 90% of Americans celebrate the holidays, such as Christmas and New Year's. And it's becoming increasingly more popular with the Black community. With that being said, although Christmas has already passed, we're going to discuss the traditions, customs, and, overall just the things that bring the Black family together and dig into the ancestral roots that, Black culture can celebrate and the life associated with it.
Okay, and to make this as interactive as we can, we've decided to add a little twist by including our own customs and traditions that we're familiar with and introducing them to each other with a little bit of history.
All right, so we're going to be discussing food, customs, and traditions that surround this holiday season.
All right. Okay, so are you going to start with food?
Yeah, we're going to. First we're going to start with food. And, there's no holiday season without food. So we're going to talk about some of the things that bring people together, that is, with a warm cooked meal.
Yeah, I agree. And you started off with a stat. I have a stat for you, too. A study from the University of Oxford found that social eating can help strengthen the community bonds and reduce loneliness. What do you think about that?
So you're telling me that being Big Mac can bring people together?
Yes, it actually can. I'm telling you, it's facts. We've seen it.
Okay. So let's talk about this. First, we're going to talk about a little bit of controversy within the food realm of the holidays. Chitlins.
Disgusting.
Me personally, I have never indulged in this type of food before, but I know other people do. It has a rich history.
Do you know anybody that's indulged in chitlins before?
Actually, our producer, Gabby, but that's neither here nor there.
Okay, just had to make sure we got that out there. As you can see, our producer disagrees, but we can keep going.
All right, but let's talk about the history of chitlins especially. So, being more of a southern dish, when slave masters or people were cutting up pigs, they would obviously take the more favorable parts and things such as the pig intestines, which chitlins are, the snouts, the neck bones and stuff like that. Were thrown out and given to the slaves to eat. But I feel like that's a big part of our culture is they take the things that, we were so unfortunate to have and they made something positive out of it. And so, with that being said, would you ever eat chitlins?
Bro, come on. I'm not looking into chitlins. I've never had a family member that made chitlins at a family event that we've had or celebrating during the holidays. I'm not familiar with chitlins. Would you eat them?
Me personally, no, because again, I'm Haitian, so we don't indulge in those types of things. But I know people who were brought up specifically in the North American continent, and especially in the southern part of the United States. Some people do indulge in it. And with that being said, even if it was seasoned right,
what do you season it with?
I couldn't tell you. Maybe salt, pepper, Lowry's, something along those lines. I would never. Our producer Gabby, she can tell you. Yeah. She indulges.
She would tell you.
So with that being said, we obviously know we wouldn't eat that, but we do have some staples that we both agree on that we would eat. So, Jovanni, what kind of food do you prefer for the holiday season?
For the holidays? Oh, number one, we got to go with mac. Mac and cheese is the number one dish that you need. Thanksgiving. All right. Gabby agrees with us on something. Number two, I love ham. Christmas ham, Thanksgiving ham. It's gonna go every single time.
Can I add something to that?
Go ahead.
I would dare say that even for Thanksgiving, I feel like glazed ham is better than turkey.
I agree with you.
Is that ridiculous to say?
I agree with you.
Is that ridiculous?
Turkey, I think it's just the holiday mascot. But turkey is so dry.
It's dry. It is dry.
Bro, it's there for the visual appeal. I don't think it tastes as good as ham or as other Thanksgiving or Christmas meals. It's just there, to be there. But yeah, keep going. What's on your list?
So, I'm going to have to agree with macaroni at number one. Especially, I feel like in Caribbean culture, it's a very staple dish.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, not made regular, a lot of different spices, and people add stuff into it. So, obviously, I'm going to put that at number one. Okay. And then, honestly, I feel like any type of meat, but I would probably say ham is my favorite.
Pause. Yeah.
Okay.
Keep going.
I would say ham is definitely my favorite. You know, like you said, we were saying turkey is pretty dry. I don't feel like a lot of people eat like whole chickens during the holidays. It's not really like a common thing.
Yeah.
And I know there are people eat ribs and stuff like that, but that's not really you know, seasonal at the time.
What you just gave me were the starters. You got to give credit to the bench warmers and
okay.
and the things and the practice players. So you got to give credit to lasagna that's there. You know, the corn souffle. You ever had that?
I had some the other day.
That stuff is so good, bro. So you have that.
Yeah.
and then you have you know, like you said, you have some type of chicken. I've had barbecue ribs, barbecue chicken on the side. So, you know, those like kind of small. Oh, you got to get greens in there. You got collard greens, and like peas, any type of vegetables. Go ahead.
Actually, for collard greens, do you prefer it to have some type of meat inside of it?
No.
No?
You don't need that with collard greens. I feel like you I feel like you kind of like, you're taking away the essence of what collard greens really are, you know. If you know, kind of change it, put in some type of protein or meat in it. But yeah, that's what I think.
Interesting. So you would consider, so we agree that greens are a side.
Yeah.
So what other sides do you think, you know, are up there in terms of holidays and stuff like that?
Okay. I'm gonna tell you what's not on my plate. And don't kill me for this. I think cornbread is overrated. I think cornbread is overrated.
That's a interesting take here.
And I know a lot of people are not going to agree with me with this. Cornbread can sometimes, it just depends who's making it. It could be as dry as turkey. It could be
you're right.
Dry.
But, maybe this is a little big back thing. But I've heard, supposedly, if you take cornbread, right, and you take a little bit of the glaze that the ham is, you know, made in, you add it on top.
Okay,
it's pretty good.
I've never seen someone do that. But yeah, I gotta give real credit. I gotta give credit real quick. Yams. I love yams. Good. Yams are real good.
Candied yams or just regular?
Candied yam, not just regular. Just regular. Because my sister. Credit to my sister. She just made yams for the first time. She made like a real like Thanksgiving dish for the first time. She made pasta salad and yams, and both of them was really good. I gotta give credit to the yams. I appreciate my sister for that. So those are my sides. Yeah.
So for me personally, I can honestly go either mashed potatoes or potato salad. I feel like both are really good. And honestly, I would dare say I think I like potato salad more than I like mashed potatoes.
You're right.
And you know, like for example, I don't know, I feel like
I think Gabby disagrees.
Yeah. You know, that's cool and all, but I prefer potato salad more. And then, you know, we spoke about it a little bit before we started the episode. Baked beans.
Oh, yeah.
Baked beans are, I feel like, a staple.
Yeah.
No matter what time of year it is. Holiday season, just regular cookout. I feel like it's always something to, you know, have on the plate. It's good. And then back to you saying cornbread, you think it's overrated. I personally disagree. I think
I respect that.
Actually, you know, depending on who makes it, I feel like that is the biggest factor because I've definitely had some dry cornbread before. So moving on from the side dishes, you know, let's get into a little more of like a historical context here. Black-eyed peas, you know, I never really had them growing up, but I know some people have. Do you know the cultural significance of it?
No, educate me. Let me hear more.
So, you know, it goes back to slavery, obviously, of course, and it was used as a food for livestock and later adopted by slaves, you know, as something to eat during the holiday season. You know, that and neck bones are deeply rooted in the slavery era, and it was something that, you know, people still eat to this day. I personally, again, I have never really eaten them before. Do you know anybody who's, you know, ever had them? Or
I'm in the same boat with you, man. Like you said with chitlins, I haven't had a family or friend gathering where they've prepared black-eyed peas. But just hearing about this, it's eye-opening about like half the things that we eat now to this day that have that much historical significance around it. But yeah, I never ate it.
All right, you know, and so with that being said, let's keep moving on to something that we're both familiar with.
All right, talk to me. Let me hear.
So, you know, as the first independent Black republic of the world. January 1st, 1804. There's a special soup called soup jumu that Haitians like ourselves eat every year. Can you just talk to me a little bit about your experience with soup jumu?
Oh, man. Every year, all of my non-Haitian friends, it's the first, right? So I'm usually, the New Year's Eve, I'm having a party. Wake up the next day, it's January 1st. I get 10 to 20 missed calls, text messages. Yo, bro, where's the soup at? I always have friends that ask, where's the soup at? So usually it's, in the past couple of years, it's been my mom. But before my mom, it was my grandmother that she had, what Haitians do, the word for a big pot is a shojia. So the big pot, and they fill up with soup, and it takes hours to prepare, and it takes days to get rid of because it's so much, and people are always asking. So I used to go to my grandma's, I'd go to my aunt's, I go to my cousin's house just to get a plate of soup, and we have it breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the first, and it's so good. But yeah, tell me what's in the soup.
So for those that don't know what's in the soup, it's honestly, people can add whatever they want, but the staples are pumpkin and squash as kind of the base. I know a lot of people add beef or some, maybe even turkey sometimes. They add noodles, vegetables, and that's kind of just the overall consensus for what goes inside the soup. Other people can add spices or whatever, but
can you tell me why they do the soup?
Why they do the soup?
Yeah.
Of course. So the historical context of the soup is it was a soup that the slave masters ate frequently in Haiti. And, slaves, they weren't able to eat some of the foods. So when, Toussaint and his people took over and they helped free our country, it was kind of like a slap to the slave masters. They said we couldn't eat this food, and now that we have taken our country back, that's the first thing we're going to eat. And so, I'm going to say, even though I know some people don't like it, one, I think it's delicious, and I love the historical context behind it.
I think it's the most, I'll say, like, the greatest or most memorable dish that we have in Haitian culture. I know we have griot, we have banan, we have everything else, but I think soup joumou has like a special place in Haitian culture and within Haitians around the world, within people in Haiti. I think it's just that different, and I would like to recognize soup joumou as the GOAT of Haitian foods, kind of like the LeBron of Haitian foods.
I could agree to that. But actually, let's take a little step back. I know you said that your grandma used to make it, and now your mom makes it. Me personally, I feel like my grandma has always made it. But what would you say is like your earliest memory eating the soup?
Ooh, man. My earliest memory? Probably my earliest memory, like being alive. I mean, as long as I can remember. Probably, I'd say maybe in elementary school. Because, I grew up so... I would say without like expanding. Obviously, most kids, they don't like to expand their palate. They don't like to try new things. But I was eating Haitian food all the time. So I kind of got used to soup joumou. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what the difference between this soup and other soups was. But I just remember eating it early, and I remember it tasting good early. What about you?
Me personally, I would go as far as to say, came out the womb eating soup joumou because there are pictures of me eating it as a baby. My parents were feeding it to me. It's just always been something that's been a part of my, my diet. Soup joumou are clearly an iconic thing for both of us. But let's get into the customs. Let's talk about the customs of the holiday season.
Oh, yeah, for sure, because customs are passed down from generation to generation, and you need them every holiday.
No, exactly. So, we're going to talk about the ones that we see during the holiday season, whether it's New Year's, Christmas, or anything in between.
All right, enlighten me.
So, number one, we're going to go with game night gatherings.
I love them.
Game night, we know a lot about game night. We know a lot about game night. But, there's some historical context to that as well. In the 1800s, Black people living in the South, they came up with this sort of idea while combining two games that slave owners and the white elites were playing. It's called whist and bridge, which was, obviously that something they saw slave owners playing and which we later adopted, or Black people later adopted into our culture. We can now call this game spades. So with that being said, spades.
That's your game.
Spades is my game. Spades, my dad taught me how to play spades when I was 15. Ever since then, it's been a staple in my life. What about you? Do you know how to play spades?
Nah, I actually do not know how to play spades. Please do not judge me. I'm sorry. But I do know how to play blackjack.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we won't dig too much in this page because, you're not that familiar with it.
Yeah, my bad.
But let's talk about a game we're both familiar with, dominoes.
Oh, boy, don't get me started. Yeah.
Talk to me about your experience with dominoes.
Okay, so here's my experience, right? I have a friend. His name is Dalberry. He's Haitian, right? And he loves dominoes. He used to love dominoes. He used to play all the time during high school. You know, when high school comes around and it's like the end of the year, you have to take tests either for winter break or summer break that's going on. And most of the classes are like not even classes at all. He would come with full domino sets and he'd teach people at our school. We went to a predominantly white school. So he would teach people how to play dominoes. I wasn't interested at the time. Sophomore year of college comes around, junior year of college comes around, and he goes to UCF. And he's like, man, let me teach you how to play dominoes. So dominoes is something that we've been playing almost every weekend for the last year and a half. And I've spent literal, not hours, days playing dominoes. Days. And I think just it's a great way to connect with friends, connect with family. Caribbeans play it. African Americans play it, especially, my friends that are from here that are not from Caribbean. Obviously, I'm Haitian. I came to the idea with my parents. I'm like, man, let's play dominoes. They go, you want to play dominoes? I'm like, yeah. So I bring them back to a time when they were teenagers or young adults and they're playing with their friends. But dominoes is my favorite game to play. Tell me more about your experience with dominoes.
My experience with dominoes, my dad, he's grew up in Haiti. Mm-hmm. And so dominoes was obviously something I saw a lot as a kid being played at family gatherings and stuff like that. And I would say that, again, until Dali came to UCF, I had never really played it all that much. Mm-hmm. Played it a little bit as growing up, but never to the extent that we played it now. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, what would you say is the funniest memory you've had playing dominoes? Maybe with your family or friends.
Playing dominoes?
Playing dominoes.
Ooh. It's a lot of those. I'm gonna generalize it. I would say when someone has the last domino and they know it's the last domino, and there's no better feeling than smacking the domino on the table and screaming that you won. Because I play with Jamaicans, I play with Haitians, I play with Americans, and the joy is the same for all of them. And they may say some explicit words that I can't repeat on here, but it is funny and it is enjoyable every single time. So I'm gonna say every time someone wins and acts accordingly.
See, I would beg to differ a little bit. I think one of the funniest things is when you see someone who has one domino left and they get all excited thinking that they won. Thinking that they won. Thinking that they won. And then, it comes back around and they realize they haven't won. And you're about to win. That quite literally is one of the funniest things to see. But, I feel like it's overall a good game. Yeah, I feel like whenever you play with people, it brings people closer. I feel like something, being competitive is something that even in our friend group, we take very serious. Mm-hmm. It creates for an overall good environment.
Yeah, it brings everyone closer together.
For sure. Yeah. We're gonna, skip over that for a little bit, and we're gonna go into something that you know a little bit about. Mm-hmm. What do you think about waiting until 2 p.m. Christmas Day to open presents?
I actually do not know anything about that.
You don't?
You have to address our producer Gabby for that because she actually knows a lot about that.
Interesting.
2 p.m. is crazy. I just want to say
you do the first gifts on Christmas Eve, right?
So what I do is at midnight I go to church with my family, and after we come back we open one gift. And then in the morning, we open up all the gifts. 2 p.m. is ridiculous. I just want to get that across.
I could agree with that. I could agree.
But what do you do?
Me personally, so I do it less often now, but I used to, growing up, go to church at midnight. It was always a combined mass between the Catholics and another Catholic church, but was mostly Hispanic. And so we always had like a big joint mass. But yeah,
was it in English, real quick?
It was English and Spanish.
Okay.
So we had two priests talking at the same time, basically.
Okay.
But going into the gifts part of that, I was always everything on Christmas morning type of family. So, I know cousins and friends who open a gift on Christmas Eve or something like that, or again after church. But no, I like to I feel like the full effect for me was opening every single gift. Because, like, you don't know what you got.
Yeah.
You can ask, but you never really know what your parents got you. And so that was always, I always enjoyed the surprise. And that was my experience during Christmas.
That's real. That's real. I agree. But yeah. We actually do have a friend, Andrew, right? He's in the journalism program, and he is from Columbia. Mm-hmm. Okay, just had to get that right. He's from Columbia. Andrew, I love you. You're from Columbia. I remember that. And I believe he opened all of his gifts the day before. I think he opened all of his gifts on Christmas Eve.
That's interesting. You know, I've actually never seen that. I'm interested to learn more about that. Mm-hmm. I feel like after this episode, we might sit down and talk with Andrew about this because I've never heard of this before. Yeah. So, but yeah, you know, that just goes to show that while we're talking about Black culture, obviously there are different cultures around the world, and everyone's a little different. And sure. Traditionally, I don't like to wait for things. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like most of my friends would say I'm the first one to leave a function, but I disagree. But with that being said,
I just want to say when people leave early, my friends usually say, "Oh, you on that germ time today?" I just want to get that across.
I disagree personally. I don't think that's a real thing. Mm-hmm. But speaking of traditions, we're going to be talking about what that means to us personally. You know, whether it's customs and traditions, but there are a few traditions that aren't labeled as customs. So let's get into that.
All right.
So something we hit on just a little bit ago was going to church on New Year's Eve at midnight. What was that like for you growing up?
So I actually didn't go to church. I did go to church one time on New Year's Eve. What you're referring to is me going on Christmas night. Christmas, yeah. But I do know a lot of people that do go on New Year's. I didn't go. I think our Gabby, again, we're going to reference to Gabby again. Gabby does go on New Year's Eve. And yeah, I mean, I see I see why. I see the reasoning behind it. I feel like it would be the same kind of reasoning with Christmas, with New Year's. But I just, can you tell me why they do this?
Yeah, absolutely. So going back into slavery, you know, African Americans who obviously they didn't have a lot of hope, or they did have hope, but you know, they gathered together, they prayed, they worshiped, they sang, they danced, all in, you know, a big celebration. Even if they couldn't be free, they still had each other, which I think is something that even we see now in the Black community today. You know, we're all in this together. And so I could see how that's passed down from generation to generation. And yeah, we still see it till today.
I actually have a quote I want to read for you. It is the 1848 Georgia Slave Code that was a big part of why they went to church on New Year's or at midnight. No persons of color shall be allowed to preach, to exhort, or join in any religious exercise with any persons of color, either free or slave, there being more than 7 persons of color present. I think that's crazy.
I think that is crazy too, but we have to look at the time here, you know.
You're right.
Obviously, we Black people in America, we've had the least amount of time to be prosperous in this country. They did everything they could, whether it was physical, emotional. They did everything they could to slow us down.
And look at us now. I mean, we still on top, man. That's all I got
still
to say.
On top. But with that being said, we've covered some of these things related to holidays and Black culture. And, you know, what we're looking forward to coming up. You know, we're looking forward into Black History Month.
Oh, and
celebrating the rich history of Black people.
And I do want people to stay tuned for what NABJ has planned for Black History Month this year. Because, you know, it's going to be special. It's going to be a special one.
Yeah. Of course. You know, with that being said, I really hope this episode reaches out to the community and people can sit down and reflect with us. And not only just reflect, but cherish how important family is, whether it's this time around the year, you know, New Year's, holiday season, but overall just in general. And then also, I would like to thank, you know, NABJ for allowing me to host this episode. With that being said, you know, I've met a lot of like-minded people within this major and a lot of people who I never thought I would meet, or people who, you know, have showed me certain things. And overall, I've had a great time here, and, you know, I wouldn't trade them for the world. So I'm very thankful for NABJ.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Jerm, for having me on the Real Talk podcast. I had a great time, and, you know, many blessings to you in your future career.
And, I just want to thank you, Jovanni, for being such a great co-host today. And thanks to the listeners out there who, stayed and, celebrated and, talked, or basically felt like they were a part of the conversation too.
Of course.
So, again, with that being said, the Real Talk podcast is hosted by the National Association of Black Journalists in the University of Central Florida. And you can keep up with us at our Instagram, NABJ-UCF. I'm your host, Jeremy Bellande, and we'll see you later on the next episode of Real Talk Podcast.